The Desert Mirage. Cruz squinted against the searing Mojave sun, his horse's hooves stirring up a fine red dust as they plodded toward the faint trail left by Isaac, the infamous outlaw. The desert stretched endlessly, its shimmering heat waves distorting the horizon like ripples on a fiery ocean, a mirage of water taunting Cruz's parched throat. Isaac's bounty poster crinkled in Cruz's pocket, its inked depiction of a cold-eyed killer an ever-present reminder of the hunt he couldn't abandon. Days blurred together in the heat, Cruz's thoughts a tangled mess of determination and unease, the endless sands amplifying his solitude. The first mirage struck at midday, a fleeting image of a woman in a flowing dress walking serenely through the desert before vanishing into thin air. Cruz reined in his horse, staring at the empty landscape where the figure had been, his heart pounding like he'd seen a ghost. "Just the heat playing tricks," he muttered to himself, his voice barely audible over the whispering desert winds. As night fell, the desert transformed into an expanse of shadowy dunes under a sky dusted with stars, offering both awe and an unsettling emptiness. Cruz dreamed of Rosa that night, her soft laughter and gentle hands reaching for him, only to dissolve into sand as he tried to grasp her. The next morning, he awoke with a start, the sensation of her presence lingering as a faint ache in his chest. The trail grew colder, and Cruz began to wonder if Isaac was even real or just another ghost the desert conjured to torment him. A rusted water trough appeared on the horizon, surrounded by skeletal remains of an old trading post, a relic of human perseverance. Cruz approached cautiously, the eerie silence broken only by the soft creak of the wind bending the long-abandoned wooden beams. As he dismounted, the faint sound of Rosa's laughter echoed from within the trading post, freezing him mid-step. His revolver drawn, Cruz pushed open the splintered door to find nothing but empty shelves and a lizard skittering across the floor. "Get a grip, Cruz," he muttered, holstering his gun, but the laughter lingered in his mind, unsettling and inexplicable. The desert seemed alive, its shimmering heat creating shifting forms that danced at the edge of his vision, always just out of reach. At dusk, he saw Isaac sitting on a rock ahead, calmly whittling a piece of wood, his posture relaxed yet menacing. Cruz called out, but Isaac didn't respond, simply vanishing like smoke as Cruz approached, leaving only the faint scent of cedar. Each mirage seemed more vivid than the last, pulling at buried memories Cruz thought he'd long forgotten, blurring the line between past and present. On the third day, Cruz found an oasis, the crystal-clear water reflecting the sky so perfectly it felt like another mirage. Rosa appeared again, her reflection shimmering on the water's surface as she whispered, "You know why you're here, don't you, Cruz?" Her voice was soft yet accusing, a question that rattled him to his core as the water rippled and erased her image. Cruz's mind raced, memories of his violent past surfacing unbidden, the faces of those he'd wronged haunting him anew. The desert, he realized, wasn't merely a backdrop, it was a mirror, exposing the shadows he'd tried to leave behind. Cruz pressed onward, his water supply dwindling and his horse growing restless, each step feeling heavier than the last. He stumbled upon a wrecked stagecoach half buried in sand, its broken wheels pointing skyward like skeletal hands in prayer. Inside the stagecoach lay a single bullet engraved with his name, a chilling artifact that made his blood run cold. "This isn't real," he whispered, but the weight of the bullet in his hand told a different story, one he couldn't explain. The desert grew more hostile, the sun an unrelenting blaze, the nights colder than he'd thought possible, each moment testing his resolve. As Cruz reached the edge of a canyon, Isaac stood across from him, a smirk playing on his lips as he raised his gun. "You can't outrun yourself, Cruz," Isaac said, his voice carrying over the void between them like a sinister melody. Cruz fired first, the shot echoing through the canyon, but Isaac was gone before the bullet reached him, leaving only his laughter. The canyon wall seemed to close in, their jagged shadows forming shapes that moved and breathed like living things. Rosa's voice guided him forward, urging him to confront the truths he'd buried, truths the desert now unearthed with relentless precision. Cruz reached a desolate plateau where Isaac waited, his figure flickering between solid and spectral, a manifestation of Cruz's darkest fears. "This ends here," Cruz said, his voice steady but his hands trembling as he drew his revolver for the final showdown. Isaac didn't flinch, his eyes burning with an intensity that felt inhuman, as though he was something far greater than a man. The desert around them seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with tension, as the two men stared each other down. Cruz fired again, but this time, the bullet stopped mid-air, hanging suspended like time itself had frozen in the heat. Isaac stepped forward, untouched, his smirk fading into a grim expression as he said, "You still don't see it, do you?" The ground beneath Cruz cracked, revealing a swirling void of memories, his life flashing before him in a chaotic torrent. Faces of the innocent he'd killed haunted the void, their eyes piercing his soul with accusations he could no longer ignore. Cruz dropped his gun, falling to his knees as the mirages coalesced into a singular truth: Isaac wasn't real, but his guilt was. Rosa appeared once more, her touch warm yet fleeting, as she whispered, "Now you understand, but what will you do with it?" The desert dissolved into a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, leaving Cruz alone with the weight of his revelations. As the mirages faded, the desert returned to its stark reality, the sun rising over the dunes with an indifferent beauty. Cruz mounted his horse, the bounty poster crumpled and discarded in the sand, its purpose as meaningless as the mirages. The journey back felt lighter, though his heart was heavy with the knowledge that he could never undo his past. The desert had stripped him bare, forcing him to confront his demons, but it had also given him a chance to start anew. Cruz vowed to leave his violent ways behind, though the path forward felt as uncertain as the shimmering horizon. He rode into the sunrise, the desert a silent witness to his transformation, its vastness a symbol of both freedom and isolation. Rosa's laughter echoed faintly in his mind, not as an accusation but as a reminder of the humanity he'd rediscovered. The Mojave had tested Cruz in every way, blurring the line between reality and illusion, until he emerged as something new. Though he couldn't say what was real and what wasn't, he knew the lessons learned in the desert would guide him forever. Isaac's smirk lingered in Cruz's memory, not as a threat, but as a reminder of the man he could no longer afford to be. The desert remained unchanged, its secrets buried beneath the sands, but Cruz felt as though he'd uncovered a truth within himself. The hunter had become the hunted, not by Isaac but by his own conscience, a battle more harrowing than any gunfight. Cruz disappeared into the horizon, a man unshackled from his past, leaving the Mojave and its haunting mirages far behind.